The British philosopher Bertrand Russell was indeed a hard worker, and his work has filled innumerable books, including his most influential work, In Praise of Idleness. He was responsible for significant intellectual advances, such as analytic philosophy, and was a strident social activist. Russell's central thesis in his essay concluded that people will become happier if they work less. The essay was initially published in 1932 during the Great Depression, which ironically, a great thinker such as Russell might see it not fit to criticize the value of idleness during a time of rampant unemployment. It is for that very reason, the erroneous view of work, that spawned the economic crisis that had eventually been bestowed upon global civilization. Russell argues, should I construct his thesis into a syllogism? Premise 1. Our attitudes about work are irrational. Premise 2. We assume that work is good in and of itself. Premise 3. We value certain types of work differently. Premise 4. These attitudes lead to unhappiness. Premise 5. We should recognize what types of work are genuinely valuable and only doing this. Conclusion. Therefore, working less will increase human happiness. Let's define work as Russell defined it in two ways. First, there is work which Russell called, quote, altering the position of matter at or near Earth's surface relative to other such matter, end quote. Or in layman terms, manual labor. The second kind of work is telling other people to alter the position of matter relative to other such matter. The second kind of work is a chain of command, wherein there are people who supervise people who move matter and others who are employed to supervise the supervisors. The first kind of work, says Russell, tends to be unpleasant and badly paid, while the second tends to be more pleasant and better paid. Russell labels this the working class and the middle class. But to these, he adds a third class, one for which is without excuse, that of the leisured landowner who depends on the labor of others to support his or her idleness. History gives us a prime example of the fact that people who work hard all their lives are being allowed to keep just enough for themselves and their families to survive, while any surplus they produce is appropriated to the leisured ruling class. Russell essentially views the work system and how the working class benefit the leisure class who, quote, extol the virtues of honest toil as patently immoral. A system of this sort is manifestly glorifying the oppressor, or a ghastly form of Stockholm Syndrome. It has been implied by Russell that work is considered noble and an obligation, and that we also see different types of work as inhabiting a hierarchy of virtue. Manual labor is usually considered less virtuous than more skilled or intellectual work, and we tend to reward people in accordance with this perceived virtue rather than what they produce. Given the fact that we consider work itself to be intrinsically virtuous, the unemployed is seen as not virtuous. What is Russell's recommendation? Russell's recommendation is that we work less, 4 hours down from 8, disregard the remnant ethical dilemmas of the past, and strive towards a purposeful lifestyle. Russell then concludes that people can be overworked, which in turn can cause happiness, which he therefore correlates to the unemployed, who are also miserable. It is a double-edged sword. To conclude, we are not enjoying a fulfilled life if we are continuously bombarding ourselves with work, and he proposes that our reduction of work will liberate us to pursue our life dreams. Manual labor, he says, is, quote, emphatically not one of the means of human life, end quote. It might be argued that if lower work hours have been granted, some people might not know what to do with their spare time. This is not to say that I, as a content creator, certainly would know what to do with my time and would enjoy it immensely. My leisure time is usually used for recovering from work, as Russell points out. However, I do try my hardest to use my leisure time for my creativity and the education of my viewers. I end this episode of Philosophy with a quote from Russell. Quote, hitherto, we continue to be as energetic as we were before there were machines. In this, we have been foolish, but there is no reason to go on being foolish forever.